So again, here we are. Adapt the Canvas, Tuesday, 7 p.m. Sorry, 6 p.m. We're going to dive in. I'm going to let the room fill up a little bit. Just going to say thank you to everybody for showing up again. These sessions are for creators who want that knowledge, that information about how to get to that next level. We have been discussing the creative mindset. We have been discussing new ways of thinking. We've discussing new opportunities in the world. We've been discussing creativity, technology. This session, we're going to bring together a few of the ideas that we've discussed, and we're going to kind of take it a little bit further. So, the world is changing. We all know that. We've been discussing some ideas over the last couple of weeks that some of you are used to, some of you are clear on, a lot of you aren't. You know, a lot of you aren't really focused on some of the things I've been talking about, basically because of experience. We are in a period of disruption, and in the period of disruption, change happens at a rate that we're not used to. And so it takes us time to sort of catch up, as it were. The reason why I'm bringing Adapt the Canvas back at this moment is because there is a need for creators to really grasp and understand the opportunities that is available to us. We are entering one of the most creative times for creators right now. The new economy is favorable to creators. The technology that's available is favorable to creators. So we're entering the creator economy. We've left the industrial revolution, the industrial industry, the industrial revolution. That era is gone. You know, unfortunately, we're still training our children in these environments we call schools, this old, outdated mode of working. We have to adapt. We have to change. And so the question that I'm posing to you guys is, if you could do anything that you wanted to do, something that you really, really love to do, what would that be using the technology that we have available? Right? Think about the technology that we have available, and imagine you had all the time in the world, you had all the money in the world, you had all the resources in the world. What would you do? Right? So meditate on that. Don't answer it straight away. Take some time, meditate on that. Really think about what would you do, right? And so why did I talk last week about the signature? Why did I talk the other week about why people give up? I'm setting the stage for something. I'm putting together little breadcrumbs to hopefully help you guys start putting the pieces together and start thinking differently. Why is a signature important? And this directly ties into what we talked about last week around why people give up. Your signature is your brand. And why is your brand important? Well, think about it. Think about a clothing company, someone like Gucci, right? When you see Gucci products, straight away, you know it's a Gucci bag, right? It screams at you premium product. You look at the craftsmanship on it, straight away, there's no doubt in your mind that's a premium product, right? You look at any of their other competitors like Prada or LV, Louis Vuitton, right? Premium products. You don't have to pick it up. When you go into the store and you see it, it screams at you premium products. You know instantly, straight away, that's something expensive. That's something of quality, right? You go to the phone shop, Apple store, same thing. You look at the Apple products. You've got no doubt in your mind that these are premium products. You haven't even picked it up, right? But when you do, it feels mustard. It's got the right weight to it. You go through the apps. You use the product, and straight away you know it's a premium product. Same thing. You go to the Porsche showroom. You get in a Porsche. You get in a Range Rover. You get in a Bentley. Premium products, right? It screams at you just by sitting in it. You know you're in a premium product. What are all these things got to do with signature and your brand? Because you don't have the time to explain what you do to your core audience, your clients, your fans. they need to make a decision really quickly. Why? Because they're making decisions really quickly all the time. That's the environment that we've moved into. That's the era that we're moving into. It's fast paced. How much time do you spend on the scroll of doom? Think about it. And what stops you on the scroll of doom? Something of quality, something that catches your attention, something that is a bit out of a bit unusual, a bit different, a bit unique, right? So think about that from the point of view of what it is that you're doing. What is it that you are doing that's going to make someone stop on the scroll? What's going to make people stop what they're doing and go, wow, what is this thing? Right? Because we've all got a limited time to digest this stuff. And as well, think about the amount of I spoke about this last week. The amount of stuff that's being put online right now is ridiculous. How are you going to cut through? What's different about you that you can demonstrate? Right? I don't need an essay. If you're making clothes, I need to be able to see those clothes straight away and make a decision whether I like it or not. If it's music, I need to hear within the first 30 seconds that you're different from everybody else or you're for me. If it's a film you're making, the same thing. The trailer's got to be so good, and the film, when I'm watching it, it's got to be so good. The storyline's got to be so good. It's got to blow me away. The 1% spend so much time on getting everything right, getting all their ducks in a row, that if you're not matching that, what are you doing with your time, with your energy? What is it that you're trying to achieve? Here's another question for you. What do you really want? Like, what do you really want? You say you want to be a producer, but what does being a producer get you? You say you want to be a fashion designer, but what does being a fashion designer, what does that really get you? Right? You say you want to be a photographer, but what does that really get you? Like, what is the underlying purpose, the meaning, your real why of why you're willing to pursue this thing? Why are you showing up here, listening to me talk? Like, what is it that you're getting out of it? How's this helping you? How's this going to change your experience? Right? We need to just go a little bit under the surface. And this is what understanding your brand, your signature is really about. It's like we're going to go underneath the surface, because no one really buys a 5,000 Gucci, £5,000 Gucci bag because they like the bag. No, it's what the bag represents. It's how the bag is going to make them feel. They want to feel like this bag to elevates their status, makes them more significant, improves their overall vibe, energy. And when they get dressed up to go out that night, they pick up that bag that adds to the whole vibe of them, and it makes them feel what? More confident, more alive, gets them noticed. There's this other level of something that's actually happening. So when you say you want to be a producer, what do you really want? What's that going to give you? How's that going to improve your life? Where does that take you? Why is this important? Because again, the world is changing. Stuff that was relevant a year ago is hardly relevant now. We're moving so fast, but the things that don't really change are the principles, the artistry, the craft of this stuff. That's not really changing. We'll dive a little bit more into that in a sec. We spoke last week about why people give up. It takes too long to create a brand. It takes too long to create the signature blueprint. It takes too long to really find out what I'm really about. So I'll just do what everybody else does. It's quicker. I'll get more attention. But you haven't really figured out what it is that you want. And so you're easily distracted. You're not committed. You're chasing the next shiny object. You haven't really gone deeper into your craft. You haven't really saw the vision of where you want to be in 5, 10 years' time. You're thinking in weeks and months instead of like years and decades. And so you're easily put off. The reality of building the brand, building you as a creator and having something that's unique about you takes time. There's the saying, it takes 10 years to become an overnight success. When people hear that, they think, I can be a success overnight. Then they think, what? It takes 10 years? And all of a sudden they're freaking out. What do you mean it takes 10 years? On average, if you're really good at what you do, if you're a master at your craft, it's taking you between 5 and 10 years to get to that level. You think about, I always think about people who make knives, those Japanese knives, when you see them, they slice through it. The skill of being able to make those blades, it takes years to perfect that. I look at, I'm really into pottery at the moment, ceramics, right? And so I've been watching people, make ceramics, and the skill that they have, it looks really effortless. I bet, if I tried it, I'd probably create some crazy thing. But when you see them do it, they make it look effortless. Why? Because they've been doing it for so long. It's not like 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Some of them have been doing it for like 10, 15, 20 years. They make it look effortless. You see someone who's really high level in dance, contemporary dance, ballet, the craft of it, how they study their craft. Why am I fixated on this? Because if everybody's got the same technology, if everybody's got the same computers, if everybody's got the same laptops, if everybody's got the same phone, if everybody's got the same software, what's the difference that's going to make the difference? Right? What are you going to do that nobody else can do? You can create your own signature, right? It's so powerful because by definition, your signature is yours and nobody else can copy it. So it stands to reason if you spend time perfecting who you are from that perspective, something good's going to come out of it. It could take a year, it could take 5 years, but think about what it would be like once you've mastered it. You're in a league of your own, right? There's no competition because nobody can beat you at being you. Think about it. So, what's the solution? Art or content? Let me ask you another question. How often do you change your favorite artist, your favorite group, your favorite brand, your favorite, you know, thing that you love the most? For me, I still love Wu Tang Clan. I still listen to Wu Tang. I'm still, when any of those guys drop an album, I'm still in it, still listening. You know, for me, Wu Tang will be one of the foundations of hip hop. Same for me with Rakim, with you Slick Rick, right? When I think about, for me, the foundation of hip hop, Gangstar, these people for me were the cornerstones of hip hop. And when I hear that they're doing another project, straight away I'm like, yeah, I want to listen to it. I want to, right? That's art. That's artistry. I'm not saying, oh, I don't like Wu Tang anymore because they have one album that didn't work. I'm a die-hard fan. I know we're all entitled to have a couple of misfires. 10 in a row, yeah, there's a problem. But one or two every now and again, it's okay. So think about that. You're invested in the artistry, the craft of whoever it is that you're following. It's because they're good at it, because they're dedicated, because they put the work in, right? That's what you want people to see in you and in your project, your business, your artistry, right? We start connecting these dots. We're looking for longevity. We're looking to create a career. We're looking to create a legacy. We're looking to create something that's so unique that nobody else can compete with it, and people have to go to you for it. How many other groups out there are like Wu Tang Clan? None. So they are the only ones who can provide what they provide. What do they provide? They've got a deep message in their music, the principles that they expound, the styles that they have. Each member's got a different style. Each member has different experience that Each member has their own project, but when they come together, it builds something even better and stronger. What do we need to get that for ourselves? Beliefs. Like I said, who are you? What do you really want? What do you really believe about yourself? If you really believed in yourself, trusted your own abilities, what would you be prepared to do? How long would you be prepared to dig into this new way of thinking, knowing that there's no guarantee that it's going to work, but you're confident in your own abilities to the degree that you're willing to explore it, you're willing to investigate it, you're willing to, come off the beaten track, come off the well-rodden track where everybody else is, where the conventional wisdom says you got to be like them, you got to do this, you got to copy them, you got to. No, it's like you are confident that you've got something that's different, that's unique, that really expresses who you are, and you're willing to bet on yourself, right? You're willing to bet on yourself to walk your own walk, because it's not a quick fix, but there's something there, and it just needs work. It needs development because you believe in that. You believe in the work. You can learn the knowledge, because if you're not where you are, there's a gap. And so there's a knowledge gap. There's a knowledge gap and skills gap. And so, what is it that you need to learn? The more learning you get, the more experience you have, the more your confidence improves. Right? People sometimes don't want to do this thing because it's a risk. You don't have to do it all in one go. You can do it in parts that help you build the confidence that you need to have so you can take one step at a time. Most people, when they do this work, they're looking down the road and they're saying, you know what, I can't do it. This goal's too big. Well, what's the first step? Like, what's one step that you need to take? Right? This isn't about trying to do all in 1 week. Like, what's the next step? Like, let's break it down into something that is manageable, something that doesn't freak out your nervous system when you think about, oh, it's too big. I can't manage it. I can't do it. Like, well, what can you do? What can you manage? And who around you can you ask for help and support? So, what skills do you need to have to make this viable? Like, what's the skills that you need to have, right? Because there's something missing in your belief system, in your knowledge, in your skills. Because where you were to where you want to go, there's a gap, and something needs to be filled in there so that you can get that confidence to experiment. Because if you're not where you are and you're dreaming about it and you've got a vision for it, then by definition you're going to have to do something different. Doing something different might feel uncomfortable. Doing something different might mean you've got to get outside of your comfort zone. Doing something different might mean you've got to stretch yourself, and all of these things are uncomfortable. They go against our human nature. They go against what we do as habitual creatures. And that takes practice to get out of those habits, to get out of those ways of thinking. And this is where people say, I'm stuck. Because they know what they want to do, but every time they go to do it, it feels uncomfortable. It feels unnatural. It doesn't feel normal. Well, of course it doesn't. It's like exercising muscles you haven't exercised. And we have that in our nervous system. And so this is where you have to start doing it slowly, because somehow you've got to get from where you are to where you want to be. You've got to change your beliefs. You've got to change your habits. You've got to change you got to learn new skills and update your knowledge. That takes time. And as you're doing it, there's no evidence that it's actually working. So you got to just trust that where you're going, that the destination is where you're going. And sometimes, like, we find it hard to trust. Sometimes we find it hard to believe. And this is where doubt creeps in. Oh, it's not working. I don't see results quick enough. And so this is where perseverance comes in. What's perseverance? It's like you got a vision, you got a goal, you got a destination. This is a place where you're going. You know you're going down this place, heading down down this road, but it's difficult, it's challenging. There's all these obstacles. And we think the obstacles are there to stop us. Well, no, they're not actually. They're there to make you stronger. Well, what do you mean? Well, think about it. What happens when you overcome something, a challenge that you never thought you could overcome? What changes in you? You get confident. You got knowledge that you could do a difficult thing. Well, maybe if I've done these difficult things and this thing's coming up, maybe I'll use the same strategy and maybe I'll be able to get through that as well. Right? When we face obstacles, when we face challenges, when we face difficulties, it isn't telling us we can't go there. It's testing us. Because here's the thing: this is my definition of a goal. Why you have goals is because you need to become the person who can get the goal. If you don't have the goal now, you don't have the skill set, the mindset, the beliefs, patterns, and the habits to be able to get that goal, right? And there's another bit added onto that we get from our good friend Myron Golden. He says you do the work on yourself, you develop yourself until you become the person that can not only get the goal but maintain it. Because we all know that once you get to the top of the game, the real work starts. Right? The real work starts because you now need to maintain it. Once you got the crown, how do you keep it? You got to do more work. You got to double down, and this is where we start talking about champions of champions. People like Michael Jordan, Michael Phelps, people that didn't just win trophies and championships once; they did it consecutively. Tiger Woods, Lewis, the racing car driver. Think about the mindset that's required to be able to perform at that high level consistently over long periods of time. Right? Think about the work that needs to be developed, the conditioning that needs to be developed. Like some of you might not want to be world champions. Some of you just might want a career that you're happy in. But it's the same mindset. You got to shift. It's the consistent development of your mindset over periods of time. What's perseverance? Knowing that you've got resilience, knowing that it's going to be tough, but you're not going to back down, knowing that it's going to be hard, it's going to be a challenge, but there is always a way through. And so it's about talking to yourself all the way through, right? It's like you're going to convince yourself that this is hard shit, right? But I'm going to find a way through. The question I always ask myself is, are there other human beings who've achieved what I'm trying to achieve? The answer is yes. Okay. Well, if one human being can do it, then so can I. I don't have the skills, the knowledge, or the belief yet, but I can learn it because there's a pattern there. And when you study success, you study the mindset, you study the behaviors. And when you study the mindset, you study the behaviors, you see patterns. And then you can model the patterns, right? I remember the very first time I DJ'd in front of a crowd of people. I never looked up. Right? I just kept my head down, and I practiced so long for so many years in my bedroom, just practicing these two turntables. And the day finally comes that I need to play out in front of people. Of course, I'm going to be nervous. Of course, I've got doubts. I've never done it before, but I've practiced mixing for years. So I know I can do it. Now I got to put it together, right? So you step out into the unknown. You've practiced a few times. You know what to do if things don't go right. You know that sometimes a record's going to go fast or slow, especially back then we had belt drive turntables, and they weren't like the Technics, the direct drives. Like these were rubber bands that if you touch them, sometimes the band would fly off, and you might have to stop, lift the platter up, and put the plastic band back on because it was so sensitive. Luckily, it didn't happen in my first show. But was I scared? Of course. Was I nervous? Of course. But the practice and the skill and determination and my vision, because I knew that I wanted to be a DJ, and that vision was bigger than the experience that I was having right there and then. That was part of it, but I had a bigger vision. I saw myself playing all over Bristol at that time, and I was playing in a little youth club. But I had big ambitions. I wanted to play in all the big clubs. I wanted to do warehouse parties. I wanted to be like the guys I saw in this movie Wildstar. I wanted to be like these guys who were playing that in Bristol called the Wild Bunch. I wanted to be like that, and they were playing in warehouse parties, and that looked cool to me, and I knew I could do that. And so, what I was doing right now, this was the first stage of the process. And that was my commitment. My commitment was to sit in that room for 5 years so I could learn how to do the mixing. That was my commitment every day for years. Just mixing, mixing, mixing till I got confident, till I got good. And then finally I had my chance, my opportunity to go out and play. And yeah, it wasn't the best set ever. It was my first set. Mixing was a little sketchy, a little nervous, sweating, maybe a few clangers here and there. But you know what? When I got through, people enjoyed it, right? I'm like 15, 16 years old. That was my first, DJ set. People were like, yeah, right? And so what is your mission? What is it that you're going to dedicate some time to so that you can test it in the real world? Is it, you know, I've worked with so many, I'm going to stick with music for this example at the moment, but I've worked with musicians over the last sort of 10 years. And one of the conversations, this is quite a popular conversation, they'll play me some music and it's quite generic. And then they'll say, I make this other music for fun, but I never play it to anybody. I'm like, well, let me hear it. And when I hear that, I'm like, why aren't you releasing that? Oh, I don't know if anyone will like it. It's like the belief about what everyone else is going to do with what they're passionate about stops them from being unique, being themselves. And so notice in the conversation, they say, I do this for fun. So they're covering themselves in case no one likes it. Oh, it's just for fun, right? Nervous, anxiety, stress. The need to stay consistent makes us believe that we need to get people to like us. Right? We need their approval for me to be me. So instead of just saying this is who I really am, I do this for fun. So in case people say, oh, it's not good, oh, it's okay. I do it for fun. Nah, this is what you do, who you really are. That stuff is what you think people want to hear because this is what everybody else does. And this could probably be applied in lots of different areas. Think about people who make clothes, who are writers, who are making short films. We do it. It's comfortable. It keeps us in our comfort zone. It lowers the risk of that rejection because we don't want that. Especially in the beginning of our career on these creative endeavors, we've made the mistake of thinking what we creatively do is us. No, this is something I do. It's not who I am. It's a reflection of who I am. And on some level, we take it personal because we think when people criticize what we do, they're criticizing us. They just don't get it yet. I remember when I was making Jungle back in the day. I remember I was walking down this road in Bristol called Stokes Croft, and this guy comes running up, and I was with Ronnie at the time. The guy comes running up. He goes, "You made that devil music," and he was angry. He was screaming at us, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" "Yeah, you made that devil music, that jungle music. Yeah, you did." And we're like shocked. I'm like, we just made music, bro. We're just enjoying ourselves. And I could have taken offense. We could have been like, whoa, and trust me, we had that for years from different groups of people, different things, because they didn't get it yet. It was this new form of music. It was so different, so radically different from what most people had heard. It was faster. It's like 160. Most people were still listening to hip hop or R&B or house, and that's all 120, right? And all of a sudden you get this music as 150, 160. It's completely different. It's got all these big bass lines and some big ragga vocals or some hip hop vocals shouting at you. Rock out! We are E! Right? And so people are like, what is this? They couldn't get their head around it. They couldn't understand it. And what's the first thing people do when they don't understand something? They get angry. They push it away. Nah, I don't like it. And then all of a sudden they see you and they connect their dislike with you. And what does that do to some people who aren't grounded in what they do? They back off, they stop doing it. They think that because this person doesn't like it, this person represents the whole world. They don't. It's one person's opinion. You don't need to make everybody like what you do. You just need to make sure you like it. That's why it's called art, right? It's subjective. It's your version of creation coming through you. It's not for everybody. It's for a certain palate. It's for a certain taste. It's for a certain people that are where you're heading. Look at what jungle is now. Global phenomenon, multi-billion pound industry. Was it like that in the in the late 90s? No. It was in back rooms of clubs. It was in the smallest tent in festivals. It was two or three little magazines. It was a handful of DJs. It was a handful of mixtapes. It was on a couple of pirate radios. Fast forward, look where we are. It's normal. There was a band, an orchestra in Bristol a week ago playing classic jungle music with an orchestra with people singing classic jungle songs. That's how far we've come. We got like a jungle revival band, an orchestra. You've had 30 years of jungle. That's gone all around the world. That's created stars, won massive awards. And now you hear it normally all over the world on TV, in films, in commercials. If you would have been if you would have been on that street on Stokes Croft and that person comes running up to you and say, "You make devil music," that guy would never have imagined that that devil music he was talking about is now mainstream. That a band would win the Mercury Music Prize, that a band would win the Mobos, an artist would win the Mobos, some artist would win a Brit Award. Someone's going to win a Grammy soon and an Oscar from this genre. Then what? So when you're deciding what it is that you want to do, it's not going to be for everybody. It's going to be for you first. It's going to be for you to create something that comes from deep inside of you that connects all of these dots. It's going to be your signature. You know, you will be prepared to do what it takes to get to where you want to get to, whether it takes 5 minutes or 5 to 10 years, because you believe in it. That's who you are. That's what you want to represent. It's your craft. You focus on the art of it. You'll focus on the craft of it because that's what you are. You're an artist and you're creating the craft that comes from your signature because that's how you become who you are. Right? That's your brand. Your brand is you take it more seriously than other people. Your brand is you're willing to work at what you do more deeply, more passionately. You're willing to go and get coaching, mentoring, go and do an apprenticeship because you want to get better at your craft. You're willing to explore other industries to find the best ways to do what you're doing because you know that there are experts out there in all these different fields and you can learn something from them. But you're not afraid to step out and ask for help and say to these people around you, do you know what? Can I apprenticeship with you? Can I learn some new techniques from you? And you bring it back to what you do in your industry. And then you learn the beliefs, the knowledge, the skills, the habits, the new programs, because that's how you take it to the next level. You update your beliefs, your patterns, and your habits. And something new comes from it, a new pattern comes from it. And because you persevere through it, because you're pushing through that, something happens and it's not obvious. Right? Most people, when they're going for what it is they're going for, they're so fixated on it that they can't see the other doors that are opening, showing them a different way. Because the reality of it is, whichever direction you decide to go down, it's not a straight line to be able to get there. You have to go maybe backwards a little bit. You have to go sideways a little bit. You have to go up, down, dig, teleport, fly, be parachuted in. it's going to be anything other than a straight line. And when you're so fixated and you got your blinders on, and you got that foveal vision, and you're just staring straight in front of you. Yes, this is what it's like. You're missing all the other opportunities for you to create what you want to create. And sometimes you've got to be open to the opportunities. You've got to know what you want, but you kind of can't be fixated on how it happens. Sometimes you've got to be willing to step outside your comfort zone and feel that discomfort, because that's where the growth is. Right? It feels uncomfortable, it feels painful, but the reality of it is that's how you grow, right? And let's track back again. Why are we doing all this stuff? Because we know we are in a changing world. And if we don't change, guess what's going to happen? We're going to get left behind. And the reality of it is, I heard a really interesting saying the other day about um, the young kids and how you got 10-year-olds becoming millionaires online, is because they're consuming this technology. They're in the womb online learning how to program, learning how to do social media, and then by the time they're born, they're online straight away. They are digital natives, they are social natives. They have no problem with maneuvering through all these apps, intuitively, instinctively. They know how to hustle on these apps. They know how to, beat the algorithms on YouTube. It's just a different mind. It reminds me of when I was younger. When I was 14, sorry, when I watched Wild Star, immediately I looked at my mum's. So back in the day, don't know if how old the audience is, but back in the day when we had these music centers, there was a turntable, there was a cassette deck, and then there was a radio in there. And to go from the turntable to the radio, there was an on-off switch. And I learned if I went use the on-off switch, I could learn to scratch. So the radio would be playing, and I would get the record, and I'd go right? And that was technology for me back in them days. So I have always said, if I was 16 now, 14, 15, 16 now, I'd be a YouTuber. Because to me, it's the same type of hacking. You see these people on there, they got no barriers. They're just so deep in it. And that's what we're competing with. You're competing with young people and smart older people who see these platforms and they can just create content, they create story, and they just whiz around it. And they haven't even left school and they're multimillionaires. They haven't even left schools and they got these huge numbers, these huge brands, and they're coaching other people, right? And so what's available to everybody if you're willing to take that next step, because it's not slowing down. The according to Forbes, by 2027, the education industry is going to be worth something like 500 billion, right? According to some people, the amount of handsets on the planet will double, right? We know that number isn't being reduced. The amount of technology will double. That means that the amount of content and information that's going to be put online is going to double, quadruple, triple. It's going to be exponential. You think it's hard getting noticed now, getting recognition now? Imagine what it's going to be like in a year's time. And let's look at how fast AI is infiltrated the planet. OpenAI only released, I think it was ChatGPT 2 12 months ago. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. 12 months ago. So 12 months ago, the world got introduced to um, AI. I think it was something like it took them 5 weeks to get to 1 million users, and um, it took Facebook X amount of years. It took Microsoft X amount of years. It took Instagram X amount of years. 5 weeks for this software, this platform, to get to 1 million users. Like unheard of. That's the speed of technology right now. So I'm invested in creators so that we understand what is available to us. Again, let me focus on music for a minute. Most people are fixated with Spotify as and those other streaming services as being the only option for you to get recognized and to get your music out there. That's because of the way that the music business is run by the tech business and the way that we are being programmed to see that this is the only viable option. Soon it won't be. Now it's not, but soon it will. There'll be a clear opposition of something even better that will work for creators. It's being built right now. But we've been blinded, sidelined, and made to think like this is all there is. That's not true. That's about people digging in and doing their own research. People digging in and understanding what the opportunities are. Why do you think you're getting loads of these TikTok stars coming out making music and being recognized on TikTok? Because they're not bound by the same rules as everybody else who are playing the old game, right? That's what these young bloods are doing. They're coming in and they're seeing opportunities on these platforms and they're not thinking, well, you know what, this is how people 10 years ago made and released music. Because that's basically what's going on. People are still trying to obey the rules of how music was made and released 10, 15 years ago. There are, name me one other industry that's still doing stuff the same way they did 15 years ago. You have a look at Elon Musk's factory, and has anyone seen the Giga Press? He's got a machine that can mold the car frame in one go. Right? Imagine that. 10, 15, 20 years ago, when you go to a car factory, you see cars being put together piece by loads of people around it. You go to his factory, it's like a one press. Boom. The shape of the car's done. This innovative thinking. You had to ask yourself a couple of questions, a couple of serious questions. What's the future of my industry? How am I going to take my business to the next level? Where do I see what other people can't see? How can I take advantage of the technology that I've got? Yeah, he's created something next level. What are the other car companies doing? So once we start getting into this line of thinking, we, everything starts to change because we know why. We need to update, right? We need to not only be current, we need to be ahead of the curve, right? We need to be ahead of the curve, right? And so, what we need to do, we need to start improving our mindset. So, we're going to talk a little bit about the 80-20 rule. So, the 80% is the psychology of any type of performance, and the 20% is the technology. And so, what we got to understand is wherever we're going, we need to spend as much time. So, why am I saying this? Because a lot of people are focusing more on the technology, right, than the actual story of what it is that they want people to buy into. It's great if your product looks great. It's great that it functions really well. It's great that it feels good in your hand. But without the emotional impact, without the story behind it, without the our ability to connect emotionally to it, it's just it just looks great, it sounds great, it feels great, but doesn't last very long. There's no connection to it. And so, why am I saying this? Because there's so much content out there, and this is what content is. It's the stuff that just grabs people's attention, but it has no substance. It distracts you because it looks great, and you think, "Oh my god, this looks amazing." Oh, this sounds great, but but then you're putting it down because something else even shinier and something better looking comes along, and then we keep doing that, we keep doing that, we keep doing that, and it doesn't satiate our appetite, because what we're really looking for is something deeper and more meaningful, more impactful, right? And when ask yourself this question, guys: What are the things that really get your attention that you spend lots of time with, right? Think about the last good book that you read. Think about the last great film that after it finished, you were talking to your partner for a good 2 or 3 days afterwards, and you were talking to all your friends, or it just left you like, whoa, what have I just seen? And why was that? Right? It had something more meaningful in there. It created something that connected with you on a much deeper level. They tapped into that 80% mindset, that psychology, that 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 emotional connection, right? That you don't necessarily get when you see these shiny bright objects, because it wears off when you actually have to invest in it. When you spend time with it, it's like, oh wow, it just falls apart because all it is the shiny bright thing. There's no story behind it. The founders aren't interested. There's nothing of depth that keeps you coming back for more. Remember, Wu-Tang Clan. 20 years later, I'm still listening to those albums. I'm still finding gems in those albums. I'm still fascinated by the rhyme play, by the documentaries that's now coming out, by the film that's been made. I'm still, unraveling stuff about RZA, Method Man. Stuff still coming out. Still, the rhyme play is better than 90% of the stuff out there. And so, when you invest in what it is that you're doing like that to that degree, guess what? People notice. It has an effect. Right? People listen. People look. People observe. Right? It just takes that shift. It takes that desire to just go a little bit further. And this is like stretching you all the time. It's stretching you because you got to get out of your comfort zone. You got to get out of that old conversation and keep remembering the world isn't changing. The world has changed and it's continuing to change. If you're still in this mindset of following patterns from 5 years ago, from 10 years ago, thinking that those are going to be the future, it's going to be hard for you to get to that next level. You got to be agile. You kind of got to be a different way of thinking. You kind of got to step into this pattern of I'm going to continually grow. I'm going to continually learn. I'm going to continue to put myself in a position where, yeah, it's scary. Yeah, it's different. Yeah, it's new, but I know where this is going. And this is about, again, that long term view. We didn't get enough chance to talk about it in this session, but we will in another session. But what is the long term view? Because then we can work backwards. We know why we're doing it. We can see the end result. This is the direction I'm traveling. So this is why this all starts to make sense. Because one, I can't stay here anymore. So let me tell you a story. I've worked with all my clients that I always reference the story. So it's a story of it's called The Wasteland, and it's a story by Joseph Campbell. So Joseph Campbell helped George Lucas write Star Wars. He was famous for writing a book called The Hero with a Thousand Faces, and it's a story called the monomyth. And the monomyth is this idea that all cultures sort of obey to, and it's the hero's journey is this psychological journey that the hero goes through to become a better person. So if you think about what happens with Luke Skywalker, first of all, he's like a young kid on a farm, doesn't know who he is, feels unsettled, knows there's more, meets Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi says, "Oh, you should be a Jedi." "Oh, I can't be a Jedi." Da, 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 da. And then he finds out that he's destined for more, and then he goes on a journey to become a Jedi. And then you see him at the end of the films, the end of the first three films anyway, he becomes a Jedi. He's totally different, right, than what he was when he started. He goes on this journey. But in the beginning, he didn't have the capacity, right? He was a bit afraid. He has to learn, right? So in the wasteland's a place where all the resources get used up. So the wasteland will be the past. The wasteland is where people are stuck. The wasteland is where most people are comfortable, but there's no more resources there, right? And unless you meet your Obi-Wan Kenobi, right, or you find the ability in yourself to become your own Obi-Wan Kenobi, because it's a metaphor, you're going to stay where you're most comfortable. You're not going to challenge yourself, right? Obi-Wan says to him, you should become a Jedi. No, I shouldn't. But he's having this conversation. He really wants something better for himself, but when he's faced with it, he starts to freeze because all of a sudden he realizes that he's going to have to leave home. He's going to have to leave his comfort zone. He's going to have to leave all the people and the things that he's become accustomed to. But there's a bigger calling, right? So when you're in that space in the wasteland, you know that there's something bigger, right? But there's a gap that you got to cross. This is the gap that most people don't want to go through because it will require work. It will require you to change who you are. And this is where the philosopher's stone idea comes from. The alchemical journey of turning lead into gold is a metaphor again of turning something raw and rough, which is us, in our raw form, in our undifferentiated raw form, into the gold where we have to become something better. We have to go through the struggle and the strife and learn and upgrade our minds, go through the pain and suffering of learning new things, and then you become the person who can, hold the saber, the lightsaber, right? Who can become the gold, who can get himself and his family out and their family, his or her family, out of the wasteland. Because it's a metaphor for the mindset that we all find ourselves in from time to time. And the people that get to that next level figure out how to upgrade. The people that get to the next level figure out how to deal with that struggle. Because think about it, what are you going to be thinking about when your time's up? The the discomfort that you went through and the life that you now have, or the regret of not doing the work, right? What's going to be on your mind? So this is like the choice that we all have because we all have that potential in us, but we don't all take it, right? It's always going to be difficult. It's difficult staying in the wasteland. It's difficult leaving the wasteland, right? But there's one constant that we've all got to obey, and that's time. Time's going to pass whether you stay there or not. Time's going to pass whether you leave or not. It's going to pass. Time's going to pass. So what do you do with your time, right? What I outlined here, this is the basic structure of a course that we're going to be delivering when we launch our platform in a couple of months. And so you're all invited to be a part of that platform. I've put a link in the chat, linking to the yeah. So you can go to the chat and you can see there's a link in there to join the membership and join the mailing list, so you get notified when our membership actually launches. So go and sign up to that, so you'll get to know when that's dropping, and you'll be informed of that. This stuff, works if you work it. It's hard going, right? Because think about what it is that you want. If it was easy, we'd all do it. We'd all have it now. This is about developing yourself, so you can become the person that can get it, right? So we got a couple of minutes left. So I just want to say that the person with the most certainty always wins. Now, how certain are you about what it is that you want to do? And this is about building into the beliefs, becoming the person, creating that type of certainty, creating new patterns, new habits, new types of awareness, so you can step into this new version of yourself. Again, yeah, it takes time. Again, yeah, it's work, but it's about developing yourself. And so I just want to thank everybody for joining me this week. Again, it's been a great show. I can see all the comments in there. I won't be able to answer any of them until afterwards, but I'll definitely dive into the chats and and comment on some of them. And again, we'll be back next week. We'll be joining the dots on another subject matter that's very close to what we're talking about. But I hope you see what I'm trying to do here is trying to give you the stepping stones to where it is that, where you can take your skills, where you can start learning, where you can start building something new and unique. Um, Thank you, everybody. Hope you have a great week, and I'll see you all next week for Adapt the Canvas. So, namaste. Have a great week. I'll see you later.